Hello, Miss Hill. As you can see, I created a yin and yang in my Desmos, and I thought it would be better if I explained it to you by voice instead of hand and paper, since it is a bit harder than everything else in my Desmos, right? So, to start things off, we create a big circle using this line right here. Right, it is a pretty simple line, right? I used it for all of the other circles, except I made the radius bigger this time. Now we move on to a similar line of code, which creates another circle, a tinier circle within the yin and yang, right? So here we have the inequality, and here is the radius. And then here, if you were to move this, it would move left or right. I wanted to set it as a zero so it could stay right there, to recreate the yin and yang image, right? And here, if you were to move this, so say we moved it to 5, it would move up and down. I believe that was up 1. Yes, it was. All right. So we do the same exact line of code here, except for a few minor changes. So we make this a +1 instead of a -1. Now, this is because we want to set it in the negative side. It is a +1 because two negatives make a positive. See how it's the same thing? So just to make life simpler, I just wrote +1. And instead of having an inequality right here, we just changed it to an equal sign since there is no need for the inequality. Now, this is where things start to get interesting. We start off with a simple circle code, right? No inequalities so far, right? And then we move on here. So this is again to set the x as 0, and then here we wanted the x at 1, or the, yeah, right here, so we wanted it to create it like right here, right? And then you may be asking, then why is this and this in a different location? It's actually it's they're actually not in a different location. It's actually because of the radius. So this has nothing to do with why, like, it might be not exactly where they are. It's actually because of the radius. So if we were to change this radius into 0.3, it would be the same thing. Uh, so then we write an inequality, and this inequality is to make the circle, the original circle, into a half circle. So if we were to delete this inequality, it would be a circle. And then if we were to add this inequality, it'd be a half circle. All right, so pretty simple stuff right now, except for that inequality at the end. Now the other line, the line below it, is the pretty much the same thing, except for a few minor changes again, like the location of where it is on the y. The x stays the same, right? And the inequality also, it changes symbols to the other side, since we want the half circle to be located on the other half, right? So, like, yeah. And this is where things start to get a bit more difficult, or a bit more challenging, in my opinion. And I will explain this thoroughly for you. All right. So the idea behind this is I copied this line of code right here. Right. I copy and pasted it over here up till this point. I stopped copying it up till this point because there are the other inequalities. The only difference between this one and this one is the inequality, right? This one does not have an inequality, it's just an equal sign over here, while this one does. This allows us to shade in a part of the circle. Now, the if we were to write this line of code right here by itself, the shading part would be a lot more massive, and it will be not accurate at all to the yin and yang. And that's why we created more lines of inequality, like here. This is another inequality over here, right? We created another inequality right here. Now, for this inequality, we copied and pasted. Which line was it? It was this line right here, I believe. And we created this inequality for, all right, so the shading doesn't get into this circle, this half of the circle. So you have there's one half of the circle on the positive and negative side. Yeah, so on the positive side of the x-axis, we created this line of inequality, so the shading does not go on that half, right? And the only difference between this line and this one right here is actually the inequality shown right here. That one has an equal sign. This one has inequality symbol. Now, as we move forward, we get to see another inequality. Now, this inequality is responsible for keeping the shading inside the bigger circle right here, the bigger side of the circle. So say we were to delete this right here. See how it'd be shaded a lot more shaded. It would shade basically half of the decimals. So we created this inequality, or I created this inequality. Um, so the shading remains in the circle. Now, the way this inequality works is I copied and pasted the line of code where it has the full circle, right? Then I just changed the equal sign symbol. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that line of code, I believe. Now, to move on to this one, it's pretty much the same stuff, except we wanted to shade in the other hat or the other side of the thing, or the yin and yang, sorry. So, say we were to delete this right here, that this part would not be shaded. Now with this line, it would be shaded, and I will explain to you why. So we started off by copying and pasting this line onto this line up to this point right here, up to here. The only difference here again is the inner or the greater than symbol uh, shown here, and not over on the other line. Now, as we move on again, we find a similar line of inequality, and we basically copied this one right here, I believe. Let me just double check. Yep, it was this one. We copied that and changed the inequality symbol. Now, this was so the shading doesn't go into the half circle. And that was pretty much it. We didn't need the top line of code to put as an inequality here. And that's how I created my yin and yang. Thank you very much.